Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we'll be doing a very short and quick video on the enhancement of the board unit. And let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. Awesome. So last time we saw that we had a board manager, and within the board manager, we had the code that was going to utilize some sort of a prefab for us. And then we were going to generate the board and store it in a two-dimensional array. So let's go back to the Unity editor and let's go to our prefab. And in our prefab, what I have done is that I have incorporated a canvas. This is a world space canvas. So by default, whenever you create a canvas, the canvas is screen space. In our case, we want this particular canvases to be world space. And to do that, you just change the render mode to world space. And the other thing that I did is that I changed the dimensions to 100 by 100. And more importantly, I scaled it down to 0.01, 0.01 on the X and the Y axis. This actually makes it super nice and exactly fits it on our board unit the way you see it over here. The next thing I did is I created a panel. A panel is a container that will be utilized to contain other UI elements in there. So this is perfect for grouping. Do you need to have a panel? Not necessarily. You don't actually need to have a panel. You can directly just create a Text Mesh Pro. In this case, we are utilizing a Text Mesh Pro UI component to represent the caption, as you can see over here. Okay, so that's kind of like the structure of the board unit as of right now. This might change in the future. Actually, it will change in the future. So what I have done is create an empty parent as a root of the board unit. Then we had our default game cube, if you recall that we scaled it down on our previous episode. And then we have added this canvas where it's going to be utilized to display some information as far as the location of that particular board unit across the whole board. So this is going to be useful for us later on for debugging purposes, right? And in the canvas, again, we have a panel, and the panel contains a Text Mesh Pro. Lastly, what we did is on the board unit itself, we created a board unit class. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So what the board unit class is going to be doing is that it's going to have a reference to the board caption, the TMP board caption. That way, at runtime, when the board is generated, and if you recall, we were creating the actual unique identifier for the name of the board, that's also going to be passed over to this board unit component where it's going to update the caption on the board itself. So let's double click on this and see how it's composed. Currently, very simple. So we have a TMP text field that's referencing the actual TMP component from the UI. And we also have two integers here, one of them representing the row and one of them representing the column. Again, this will be utilized later on down the road. Switching over to our board manager. In the board manager, pretty much the code is still the same. The only difference is that we have added this board unit region. And basically what we are doing is once we are instantiating the board unit, we are getting the board unit component from the game object that we just instantiated, and we are doing it from its children, and there's only going to be one of them, right? So the get components in children, not get component. Get component will get the component from the current transform. Get component in children will get it from any children that the current transform might have. In this case, there's only one that is supporting board unit, so this should be fine. And then the next thing that we are doing is just assigning the text value of the TMP board caption label to whatever the name is that we have formatted over here. And we'll also updating the row and the column field as well. So that's pretty much what we are doing here. So going back to our Unity editor, and if I go ahead and click run now, you'll see that boards have been generated accordingly. The difference is that now we actually can identify what each one of these board units represents, which position they actually hold. So this is a great way to identify, especially early on in the project. So whenever you want to troubleshoot or debug behaviors or data components within the actual game, then it would be easier to actually visualize it. Lastly, the other thing that I did is implement a quick mouse click. So each time we are selecting an object in the scene, and if that object happens to be a board unit, what we are doing is that we are printing out the information that we have selected that board unit. So this is the next step, right? In the future episode, what we'll be doing is implementing the actual interaction of the user with their mouse on the actual board and be able to place the player's pieces onto the empty slots within the board. All right, so that's it. Very straightforward. Before we end this particular episode, let's jump back in here. Just quickly showing you guys how the mouse click works. So we are doing an array. We are creating an array where we are passing in the mouse position to the screen point array function from the camera. And then we are checking to see if the left mouse button has been clicked. And if that is the case, we are doing a raycast using the physics class. And basically, we are determining to see if there is a hit or not. If we do have a hit and the tag of the transform that we just hit equals to the board unit, then what we are going to do is that we are going to get the component now. So now we are getting the component, not the child from the children, but directly from the transform itself, because we are interacting with the board itself. And here we are just putting a debug statement. Again, get familiar with this debug.log. These are going to be handy later on as your code becomes much more complicated and you want to troubleshoot and make sure that everything is like working properly. Lastly, what we did, let's also go back to the editor. On the board unit itself, let me stop this. Under prefab, the board unit, we changed the tag to board unit. This wouldn't exist, so you would have to create it. So you would go down here and say add tag. And from here, you would click that plus sign. And I have multiple screens over here, so it's not going to show it for you guys. But basically, you would enter the name of the tag, and then you would click save. That will create the tag. That's not going to assign the tag. Okay, so that will just create the tag, but not assign the tag. So what you need to do is go back and select the object of interest. And then from the tag drop down, you would then select that specific tag that you just created. And this now is assigned and associated with this particular game object in the prefab. Therefore, when we are checking it on the code, we should be fine. All right, so let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen. All right, so that's it for today. Very quick and straightforward, but another piece of the fundamentals that we need to put in place before we get to the next step. All right, thank you for stopping by, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.